The marble floor beneath Lily's bare feet felt like ice. She stared at the white envelope on her nightstand, its weight pulling at her even from across the room. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan stretched endlessly, its lights blinking like predator eyes in the dark. 3 hours. She'd been awake for 3 hours, replaying his words. $1 million. Her hands trembled as she pressed them against the window glass, cold seeping through her fingertips. Down the hall, Oliver's soft breathing filtered through the baby monitor, steady and innocent. 3 years old, with his father's dark hair and his mother's gentle eyes. The boy who called her Lilyflower and clung to her hand during thunderstorms. The boy whose world was about to shatter. 38 floors above the city that had made him untouchable, Lucas Stone sat in his study. His fingers drummed against mahogany where Helen's photograph still watched him with knowing eyes. 3 years since the accident. 3 years of Oliver asking when Mommy was coming home. 3 years of drowning in boardrooms, trying to forget screeching tires and his own cowardice. The custody papers lay spread before him like a death sentence. Helen's parents had money, respectability, a Connecticut house with white pickets and Sunday dinners. Everything a judge would want. Everything Lucas could never be. Mr. Stone, Lily's voice cut through the silence. She stood in the doorway wearing a cotton nightgown that made her look younger than 23, vulnerable in a way that made Lucas's chest tighten with guilt and something darker he refused to name. "You should be sleeping," he said without looking up. "So should you." She stepped inside, bare feet silent on Persian rug. Oliver had a nightmare. He was calling for his mama again. The words hit Lucas like a physical blow. He finally looked at her, taking in honey-colored hair falling in waves around her shoulders, green eyes holding shadows that matched his own. She was beautiful in an understated way that made expensive women look artificial. Real. She was the only real thing in his house of glass and steel. "The hearing is in 2 weeks," he said, gesturing to the papers. "Helen's parents hired Morrison and Associates. They're claiming I'm an unfit father." Lily moved closer. He caught vanilla shampoo mixed with something uniquely her. "You love Oliver more than your own life. Love isn't enough." The words tasted bitter. "They have a family, a mother figure, stability. All I have is money and a nanny who will leave the moment she finds something better. I would never leave Oliver." The conviction in her voice was fierce, protective. "Wouldn't you?" Lucas stood, his height making her crane her neck to meet his gaze. "For the right price, the right opportunity. Everyone has a breaking point, Lily." She stepped back as if slapped. "Is that what you think of me?" "I think you're young and beautiful and wasting your life in my shadow." He moved around the desk, closing the distance between them. "I think you deserve more than taking care of another woman's child for a man who can barely look at you without wanting something he can never have." The confession hung in the air like a loaded gun. Lily's breath caught, cheeks flushing pink in lamplight. "The envelope," he said, voice rough. "I meant every word. 1 night, $1 million. Enough to finish your degree, buy a house, start the life you deserve. All you have to do is marry me." The words hit her like a physical blow. "Marry you?" "A marriage of convenience. Legal paperwork to show the judge Oliver has a stable home, 2 parents who love him. After the custody hearing, we annul it quietly. You get your money, your freedom. Oliver gets his father." Lily's world tilted. This wasn't about one night. This was about becoming a prop in Lucas's desperate play. "You want to buy a wife?" "I want to save my child." His voice cracked. "And you're the only person I trust not to destroy us both in the process." She thought of her childhood, bouncing between foster homes where she learned early that love was conditional. Safety temporary, everyone eventually left. She thought of Oliver's laugh, his small hand in hers, the way he looked at her like she was the most important person in his world. "If I say yes," she whispered, "what happens to us? To whatever this is between us?" Lucas's jaw tightened. "There is no us, Lily, there's Oliver. And there's survival. Everything else is a luxury I can't afford." But the way he looked at her said otherwise. The way his hands clenched at his sides, fighting not to reach for her, told a different story entirely. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths and dangerous possibilities. "I need time to think," Lily said finally. You have until morning. Lucas turned away, dismissing her with practiced coldness. The lawyers need an answer by noon. As she reached the door, his voice stopped her. Lily. She turned back, hope flickering in her chest. Don't make this about feelings. We both know how that story ends. She left him standing in lamplight, surrounded by his money and his grief, and his desperate love for a child running out of time. The envelope waited on her nightstand like a promise and a threat. Outside, Manhattan glittered like a city of dreams built on other people's nightmares. The marble floor beneath Lily's bare feet felt like ice. She stared at the white envelope on her nightstand, its weight pulling at her even from across the room. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan stretched endlessly, its lights blinking like predator eyes in the dark. 3 hours. She'd been awake for 3 hours, replaying his words. $1 million. Her hands trembled as she pressed them against the window glass, cold seeping through her fingertips. Down the hall, Oliver's soft breathing filtered through the baby monitor, steady and innocent. 3 years old, with his father's dark hair and his mother's gentle eyes. The boy who called her Lilyflower and clung to her hand during thunderstorms. The boy whose world was about to shatter. 38 floors above the city that had made him untouchable, Lucas Stone sat in his study. His fingers drummed against mahogany where Helen's photograph still watched him with knowing eyes. 3 years since the accident. 3 years of Oliver asking when Mommy was coming home. 3 years of drowning in boardrooms, trying to forget screeching tires and his own cowardice. The custody papers lay spread before him like a death sentence. Helen's parents had money, respectability, a Connecticut house with white pickets and Sunday dinners. Everything a judge would want. Everything Lucas could never be. Mr. Stone, Lily's voice cut through the silence. She stood in the doorway wearing a cotton nightgown that made her look younger than 23, vulnerable in a way that made Lucas's chest tighten with guilt and something darker he refused to name. You should be sleeping, he said without looking up. So should you. She stepped inside, bare feet silent on Persian rug. Oliver had a nightmare. He was calling for his mama again. The words hit Lucas like a physical blow. He finally looked at her, taking in honey-colored hair falling in waves around her shoulders, green eyes holding shadows that matched his own. She was beautiful in an understated way that made expensive women look artificial. Real. She was the only real thing in his house of glass and steel. The hearing is in 2 weeks, he said, gesturing to the papers. Helen's parents hired Morrison and Associates. They're claiming I'm an unfit father. Lily moved closer. He caught vanilla shampoo mixed with something uniquely her. You love Oliver more than your own life. Love isn't enough. The words tasted bitter. They have a family, a mother figure, stability. All I have is money and a nanny who will leave the moment she finds something better. I would never leave Oliver. The conviction in her voice was fierce, protective. Wouldn't you? Lucas stood, his height making her crane her neck to meet his gaze. For the right price, the right opportunity. Everyone has a breaking point, Lily. She stepped back as if slapped. Is that what you think of me? I think you're young and beautiful and wasting your life in my shadow. He moved around the desk, closing the distance between them. I think you deserve more than taking care of another woman's child for a man who can barely look at you without wanting something he can never have. The confession hung in the air like a loaded gun. Lily's breath caught, cheeks flushing pink in lamplight. The envelope, he said, voice rough. I meant every word. One night, $1 million. Enough to finish your degree, buy a house, start the life you deserve. All you have to do is marry me. The words hit her like a physical blow. Marry you? A marriage of convenience. Legal paperwork to show the judge Oliver has a stable home, 2 parents who love him. After the custody hearing, we annul it quietly. You get your money, your freedom. Oliver gets his father. Lily's world tilted. This wasn't about one night. This was about becoming a prop in Lucas's desperate play. You want to buy a wife? I want to save my child. His voice cracked. And you're the only person I trust not to destroy us both in the process. She thought of her childhood, bouncing between foster homes where she learned early that love was conditional. Safety temporary, everyone eventually left. She thought of Oliver's laugh, his small hand in hers, the way he looked at her like she was the most important person in his world. "If I say yes," she whispered, "what happens to us? To whatever this is between us?" Lucas's jaw tightened. "There is no us, Lily. There's Oliver. And there's survival. Everything else is a luxury I can't afford." But the way he looked at her said otherwise. The way his hands clenched at his sides, fighting not to reach for her, told a different story entirely. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths and dangerous possibilities. "I need time to think," Lily said finally. "You have until morning." Lucas turned away, dismissing her with practiced coldness. "The lawyers need an answer by noon." As she reached the door, his voice stopped her. "Lily." She turned back, hope flickering in her chest. "Don't make this about feelings. We both know how that story ends." She left him standing in lamplight, surrounded by his money and his grief, and his desperate love for a child running out of time. The envelope waited on her nightstand like a promise and a threat. Outside, Manhattan glittered like a city of dreams built on other people's nightmares. The courthouse steps were slick with morning rain. Lily's hand trembled in Lucas's as they climbed toward the massive doors, photographers' cameras clicking like hungry insects. "Smile," Lucas murmured against her ear, his breath warm. "We're newlyweds, remember?" She forced her lips to curve, the diamond on her finger catching light and throwing rainbows against the wet stone. 3 days married, 3 days of sleeping in separate rooms, of Lucas touching her with calculated precision in public and avoiding her completely in private. 3 days of pretending her heart wasn't breaking every time he looked through her. Helen's parents waited inside the courtroom, gray-haired and stone-faced. Margaret's eyes tracked Lily with the precision of a predator, taking in every detail of her simple dress, her nervous hands, the way she stood just slightly apart from Lucas despite their intertwined fingers. All rise for the Honorable Judge Chen. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of legal terminology and thinly veiled accusations. Lucas's lawyer painted a picture of stable family life, of a loving father and devoted stepmother. Helen's lawyer countered with evidence of Lucas's 70-hour work weeks, his history of emotional unavailability, the revolving door of nannies before Lily. "Mrs. Stone," Judge Chen's voice cut through the tension. "How long have you known the defendant?" Lily's throat went dry. 2 years, Your Honor. I was Oliver's nanny before Lucas and I became involved." "And when exactly did this romantic involvement begin?" She felt Lucas tense beside her. They'd rehearsed this answer a dozen times. "About 6 months ago," she said steadily. "We tried to keep it professional, but feelings developed naturally over time." "Naturally." Margaret's lawyer stood, sharkskin suit gleaming. "Or conveniently? Mrs. Stone, isn't it true that you signed a marriage license just 5 days ago? That this wedding occurred mere weeks before this custody hearing?" "Objection," Lucas's lawyer barked. "Relevance? I'm establishing a pattern of opportunistic behavior, Your Honor." Judge Chen nodded. "I'll allow it. Mrs. Stone, please answer the question." Lily's pulse hammered in her ears. "The timing was fast, yes, but when you know someone is right for you and your family, why wait?" "Indeed," the lawyer smiled like a wolf. "Why wait? Perhaps because there's $1 million incentive to move quickly." The courtroom went silent. "Excuse me?" Lily's voice came out strangled. "I have here a bank statement showing a transfer of exactly $1 million from Mr. Stone's personal account to yours, dated the morning after your wedding." The lawyer slid papers across to the judge. "It seems Mr. Stone paid quite handsomely for this convenient marriage." Lily's world tilted. She turned to Lucas, searching his face for denial, for explanation. His expression was carved from stone, jaw clenched, eyes fixed straight ahead. "Lucas," she whispered, "tell them it's not true." But he said nothing. The realization crashed over her like ice water. He had transferred the money despite her refusal. Despite her conditions. Despite everything. "Your Honor," the opposing lawyer continued, "this is clearly a fraudulent marriage designed solely to influence this custody decision. We ask that you dismiss Mr. Stone's petition immediately." Judge Chen's gaze swept between them, disappointment evident. "I'm inclined to agree. However, I'll reserve judgment until we hear testimony from the minor child." Bailiff, please bring in Oliver Stone. No. Lily stood abruptly, chair scraping. Don't bring him into this, please. Mrs. Stone, sit down. He's 3 years old. He doesn't understand what's happening. You can't make him choose. The child's preference is relevant to custody determinations. Then ask me. Lily's voice broke. Ask me anything, but leave Oliver out of this circus. Margaret leaned forward, voice dripping with false sweetness. Tell us, dear, what were you before Lucas found you? A failed college student working minimum wage jobs? Living in a studio apartment in Queens? How convenient that a billionaire needed a wife right when you needed money. That's not how it happened. No? Margaret's eyes glittered with malice. Then tell me, if you love my son-in-law so much, why do you sleep in separate bedrooms? Why does he leave for work before dawn to avoid you? Why does he look at you like you're a stranger? Each word was a knife between Lily's ribs. We're still adjusting, she said weakly. Adjusting. Margaret stood, voice rising. You're a gold digger who saw an opportunity and took it. You don't love Lucas. You don't love Oliver. You love the money and the lifestyle and the chance to play princess in a penthouse. That's enough. Lucas's voice cut through the courtroom like a whip crack. He stood, hands planted on the table. Don't speak to my wife that way. Your wife? Margaret laughed bitterly. You bought yourself a prop, Lucas, just like you bought everything else in your miserable life. You couldn't save my daughter, so you think you can buy a replacement? I said enough. The truth is, you killed Helen. You killed her through your selfishness and your pride and your absolute inability to think of anyone but yourself. Tears streamed down Margaret's face. And now you want to raise her son? You'll destroy him, just like you destroyed her. Lucas's face had gone white, lips pressed into a thin line. Is that true, Mr. Stone? Judge Chen's voice was soft but cutting. Did you transfer money to your wife without her knowledge or consent? Silence stretched like a noose. Yes, Lucas finally said. I did. Lily felt something inside her shatter. Then this court has no choice. Judge Chen's gavel hovered. Given the evidence of financial coercion and fraudulent marriage, I'm awarding temporary custody to Margaret and Robert Whitmore, pending further investigation. No. The word tore from Lily's throat. Please, Your Honor, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, Mrs. Stone. You've been paid to play a role, and Mr. Stone has attempted to manipulate this court. The gavel fell with devastating finality. Oliver Stone will be remanded to his grandparents effective immediately. The courtroom erupted. Lucas's lawyer was shouting objections. Margaret was crying. And through it all, the door opened, and a social worker led Oliver inside, his small hand clutching his dinosaur. Daddy? His voice was small, confused. Lilyflower. What's happening? Lily broke away from the table, dropping to her knees in front of him. Hey, sweet boy. Everything's going to be okay. Are you leaving? His eyes, Helen's eyes, stared up at her with devastating trust. You promised you wouldn't leave. Behind her, she heard Lucas make a sound like he'd been shot. I'm not leaving, she whispered, pulling Oliver close. I'm never leaving. Then why is Daddy crying? Lily looked back. Lucas stood alone at the defense table, shoulders shaking, one hand pressed to his mouth. For the first time since she'd known him, tears tracked down his face. He had broken his promise to her. He had transferred the money, turned their marriage into exactly what everyone accused it of being. But as she watched him fall apart, watched him lose the only thing he'd ever truly loved, Lily realized the devastating truth. He had done it to protect her. If the marriage fell apart, if everything went wrong, he wanted to make sure she had something. He had paid her because he believed he would lose, and he couldn't bear the thought of her sacrificing everything for nothing. He had betrayed her to save her, and now they had both lost everything. Mr. Stone, you have 1 hour to say goodbye to your son, Judge Chen said quietly. After that, Oliver will leave with his grandparents. Lucas looked up, eyes finding Lily's across the chaos. In that moment, she saw everything he'd never said, every touch he'd denied himself, every feeling he'd locked away, every impossible, desperate, doomed thing he felt for her and couldn't name. I'm sorry, he mouthed. Oliver's small hand gripped her dress. Don't let them take me, Lilyflower. Please. Outside the courthouse windows, Rain hammered against glass like fists against a locked door. Inside, 3 people clung to each other as the world ended around them. The hour had begun. The penthouse felt like a tomb. Lily sat on Oliver's bed, surrounded by dinosaurs and picture books, watching Lucas pack his son's clothes with mechanical precision. 53 minutes left. 53 minutes before the social worker arrived to tear their world apart. Oliver had finally cried himself to sleep in her arms, hiccuping breaths against her shoulder, asking why Grandma Margaret didn't like Daddy anymore, why everyone was so angry, why his family was breaking, questions with no good answers. "You should have told me." Lily's voice was hollow. "About the money." Lucas didn't look up from folding a tiny shirt. "You would have refused it." "Of course I would have refused it." That was the entire point. The point was saving Oliver. His hand stilled. "I failed at that too." Silence stretched between them, heavy with recrimination and regret. "Why did you do it?" she asked finally. "Really?" Lucas sank onto the edge of the bed, head in his hands. "Because I knew I would lose. I've known from the start. Helen's parents have everything a judge wants to see. Love, stability, a real family. All I have is money and guilt and a marriage certificate that means nothing. It could have meant something." "No." He looked at her then, eyes red-rimmed. "It couldn't. Because I'm poison, Lily. Everyone I touch gets destroyed. Helen died because of me. Oliver's losing his father because of me. And you threw away your integrity for a man who can't even look at you without wanting to corrupt everything good about you. Stop." Lily moved closer, fingers brushing his jaw, forcing him to meet her gaze. "Stop punishing yourself and listen to me. I have an idea. There's no idea left. It's over. What if it's not about the marriage?" Her mind raced, pieces falling into place. "What if it's about me?" Lucas frowned. "What are you talking about?" "Judge Chen didn't dismiss your custody petition. She awarded temporary custody to the Whitmores pending investigation. That means we have time to prove the marriage is real." "It's not real. We just proved that in court." "Then we make it real." Lily's heart hammered. "Or rather, I do." Understanding dawned in Lucas's expression, followed immediately by horror. "No, absolutely not. Listen to me." She gripped his shoulders. "The problem isn't you. It's never been you. The problem is that you're a single father with demanding work and no support system. But if Oliver has me, really has me, not as a paid employee but as someone who genuinely loves him and chooses to be here. Lily, no. I'll go to Judge Chen tomorrow. I'll tell her the truth. All of it. That you offered me money and I refused. That I married you anyway because I love Oliver, and I believe in you. Even when you don't believe in yourself. That the money you transferred was against my wishes and I'm returning every cent. She won't believe you. She might." Lily's voice strengthened. "Because I'll offer her something no amount of money can buy. I'll give up my annulment rights. I'll make this marriage permanent, real, legally binding. No escape clause. No easy out. I'll tie my entire future to yours with no financial safety net." Lucas stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "That's insane. You'd be trapped. I'd be choosing." She cupped his face in her hands. "Don't you see? The only way to prove this isn't about money, is to remove money from the equation entirely. I'll sign whatever legal documents necessary. Prenup, postnup, anything that proves I'm getting nothing from this except the right to be Oliver's. Mother, you're asking to sacrifice everything. I'm asking to save a little boy who's already lost too much." Tears burned her eyes. "And maybe if I'm lucky, I'll save the man I fell in love with somewhere along the way." The confession hung between them like a grenade with the pin pulled. "You don't love me," Lucas said hoarsely. "You can't. Why? Because you killed your wife? Because you're broken and guilty and convinced you don't deserve happiness?" She leaned closer until their foreheads touched. "I've been broken too, Lucas. I've spent my whole life waiting for people to leave. And yes, you're damaged and difficult and you push me away every chance you get. But you're also the man who reads Oliver 3 stories instead of 1, because you can't bear to see disappointment in his eyes. The man who remembers I take my coffee with honey instead of sugar. The man who looks at me like I'm the only real thing in his world of glass and steel. Lily." His voice cracked. "I'm not doing this for you," she whispered. "I'm doing it for me, because for the first time in my life I have a family. and I'm not letting it go without a fight. Lucas's hands came up to cover hers, trembling. If you do this, there's no going back. You'll be bound to me legally, socially, financially. My enemies will become your enemies. My guilt will become your burden. Everything ugly in my life will touch you, then touch me. She pressed closer. Stop holding back. Stop pretending you don't feel this. If I'm going to sacrifice everything, I want the truth. All of it. For a heartbeat, he resisted. Then something broke. Lucas kissed her like a drowning man finding air, desperate and consuming and edged with 3 years of denial. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, and Lily melted into him, tasting salt and coffee and something darker, more dangerous. I've wanted this since the moment you walked into my house, he breathed against her mouth. Every day watching you with Oliver, seeing you be everything Helen should have been, everything I didn't deserve. I wanted to corrupt you, claim you, make you mine in every way that matters. Then do it. Her fingers gripped his shirt. Stop treating me like I'm fragile. You're about to ruin your life for me. That makes you the strongest person I know. He pulled back slightly, eyes searching hers. But it also makes you insane. You understand that, right? Walking away from the money, from your freedom, from every escape route, for a man who will probably destroy you. Or maybe we'll save each other. She smiled through tears. Either way, it's my choice. Let me make it. A sound from the doorway made them both turn. Oliver stood there, dinosaur clutched to his chest, eyes wide and full of hope. Are you staying, Lily Flower? Really staying? Lily pulled away from Lucas, crossing to kneel in front of Oliver. Really staying, sweet boy, forever. And Daddy won't be sad anymore? She glanced back at Lucas, who stood frozen, watching them with an expression of such raw emotion it hurt to see. Daddy's always going to be a little sad, she said gently, because he misses your mama very much. But he's also going to be happy, because he has you, and now he has me too. Oliver threw his arms around her neck. I love you, Lily Flower. I love you too, baby. She held him tight, meeting Lucas's gaze over his shoulder. So much. The doorbell rang. Social services. 20 minutes early, Lucas moved toward the door like a man walking to his execution. Wait. Lily stood, Oliver on her hip. Before we open that door, I need to know something. Lucas turned back. Are you with me on this? She asked. Really with me? Because if I'm going to walk into Judge Chen's office tomorrow and stake my entire future on us, I need to know you're done running, done pushing me away, done treating this like a transaction. He crossed the room in 3 strides, hand sliding behind her neck, pulling her close enough to breathe the same air. I'm terrified, he admitted. Terrified I'll fail you the way I failed Helen. Terrified I'll wake up one day and you'll realize what a mistake you made. But I'm also so in love with you it hurts to look at you, and I have been for longer than I want to admit. Oliver giggled between them. Daddy loves Lily Flower. Daddy loves Lily Flower very much, Lucas confirmed, eyes never leaving Lily's face. The doorbell rang again, more insistent. Then let's fight, Lily said. Together. Lucas kissed her once more, quick and fierce. A promise and a prayer. Then he opened the door to face the social worker. His son in Lily's arms, their future balanced on the edge of a knife. Outside, the city glittered with 1,000 stories of love and loss and impossible second chances. Inside, 3 people prepared to rewrite the ending they'd been given. Tomorrow, Lily would walk into Judge Chen's office and gamble everything. Tonight, for the first time since Helen died, Lucas Stone allowed himself to hope. Judge Chen's chambers smelled like old leather and older decisions. Lily sat across from the judge, hands folded in her lap, Lucas beside her radiating tension. They had 48 hours. 48 hours before Oliver was transferred to Connecticut permanently, unless they could prove the marriage was real. Mrs. Stone. Judge Chen removed her glasses, studying Lily with exhausted eyes. I've reviewed your emergency petition. You want to waive your annulment rights and make this marriage permanent with no financial compensation. Why? Because I love my family, Your Honor. Your family. Judge Chen's voice held skepticism. The family you've been part of for less than a week. The family I've been part of for 2 years. Lily leaned forward. I've wiped Oliver's tears and read him stories and held him through nightmares about losing his mother. I've watched Lucas work himself to exhaustion, trying to be enough for a child who needed more than money could buy. I've lived in that penthouse, in that life, and chosen every single day to stay. For $70,000 a year. For a little boy who calls me Lilyflower and trusts me with his whole heart. Judge Chen's expression softened slightly. The money transfer suggests otherwise. The money transfer was Lucas's attempt to protect me from his own guilt. Lily glanced at Lucas, who sat rigid beside her. He's convinced he destroys everything he touches, so he tried to make sure that when this marriage imploded, I'd have something. He wasn't buying me. He was trying to save me from himself. That's a convenient interpretation. It's the truth. Lucas spoke for the first time, voice rough. I transferred the money because I knew the Whitmores would win. They should win. They're good people who can give Oliver stability and love without the baggage I carry. I wanted Lily to have something when I took everything from her. You didn't take anything from me, Lily said quietly. I gave it freely. Judge Chen studied them both. Mr. Stone, why should I believe this marriage is real when you've spent the entire proceeding treating your wife like a stranger? Lucas's jaw clenched. Because I'm an idiot who thought he could keep her safe by keeping her at arm's length. Because every time I look at her, I see everything I don't deserve and can't bear to lose. Because loving someone after you've killed the person you loved before is terrifying, and I handled it like a coward. The raw honesty hung in the air. And you, Mrs. Stone. Judge Chen turned to Lily. What do you see when you look at your husband? I see a man who reads his son 3 stories instead of 1 because he can't bear to disappoint him. A man who remembers I take my coffee with honey. A man who carries so much guilt he's forgotten how to forgive himself. Lily's voice strengthened. I also see a man who's never once raised his voice to Oliver, who works himself to exhaustion to provide a good life, who loved his first wife enough that losing her nearly destroyed him. That's the man I married, not his money, not his mistakes. Him. Silence stretched between them. I've seen a lot of marriages in this job, Judge Chen said finally. Real ones, fake ones, everything in between. You want to know what I see when I look at you two? They waited. Breath held. I see 2 people who are absolutely terrible at communicating, but can't stop looking at each other when they think the other isn't watching. I see a man who's been dead behind the eyes in every court appearance, except when his wife speaks. I see a woman who just offered to sacrifice her entire future for a child she has no legal obligation to. Judge Chen leaned back. I also see 2 people who haven't thought through what happens next. What do you mean? Lily asked. Let's say I rule in your favor. Let's say I determine this marriage is genuine and Oliver stays with you. Then what? Mr. Stone goes back to 70-hour weeks. You play house in a penthouse. Eventually, the cracks show. The resentment builds. And Oliver gets caught in the middle of another broken family. That won't happen, Lucas said firmly. How can you be sure? Because I quit. Everyone stared at him. Yesterday, Lucas continued, voice steady. I submitted my resignation as CEO of Stone Industries. I've appointed my CFO as interim leader and put the company up for sale. The process will take months, but within a year, I'll be a private investor working from home. I'll be present for Oliver, for my wife, for the family I should have prioritized 3 years ago. Lily's hand found his, fingers intertwining. He hadn't told her. This was a sacrifice she hadn't asked for, hadn't expected. You're selling your company? Judge Chen looked stunned. The company you built from nothing? It's just money. Lucas's thumb stroked across Lily's knuckles. I already lost everything that mattered once. I won't make that mistake again. Judge Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood, moving to the window overlooking the city. Margaret Whitmore called me this morning, she said finally. She told me something interesting. She said that in the 2 years since Helen's death, she's never seen Oliver smile the way he smiled in that courtroom when he saw you. Mrs. Stone, she said he ran to you like you were oxygen and he'd been drowning. Lily's throat tightened. She also said, Judge Chen continued, that maybe, just maybe, she's been so focused on punishing Lucas for Helen's death that she forgot what her daughter would have wanted, which was for Oliver to be loved. Hope flickered in Lily's chest. I'm not ready to make a final ruling, Judge Chen said, turning back to face them. "But I am willing to grant a 6-month probationary period. Oliver will remain with you under supervised conditions. Family counseling, monthly home visits, the works. If at the end of 6 months you've proven this family is real and functional, I'll award permanent custody to Mr. Stone." "And if we don't?" Lucas asked. "Then Oliver goes to Connecticut." Judge Chen's voice was firm. "No second chances. No appeals. You get 6 months to prove you're not playing house, that you're building a real marriage, a real family, a real life together." Lily looked at Lucas. 6 months to prove something that felt both impossible and inevitable. 6 months to transform a desperate bargain into something real. "We'll do it," she said. "One more thing." Judge Chen fixed them both with a stern look. "Mrs. Stone, I'm ordering that $1 million returned to Mr. Stone immediately, and I'm requiring both of you to sign a postnuptial agreement that ensures you receive nothing in the event of divorce." "Can you live with that?" "Yes," Lily said without hesitation. "Even knowing you're walking away from financial security? From any safety net?" "I don't need a safety net." Lily squeezed Lucas's hand. "I have a family." Judge Chen nodded slowly. "Then I'll see you in 6 months. Don't disappoint me." Outside the courthouse, rain had given way to weak sunshine. Lucas pulled Lily into an alcove, hands framing her face. "You just gave up $1 million. I gave up nothing." She smiled. "I gained everything. I sold my company. You made a choice." Her fingers traced his jaw. "We both did. 6 months," he murmured. 6 months to prove we're real." "We are real." Lily pulled him closer. "This, right here, right now, this is the realest thing I've ever felt." Lucas kissed her there on the courthouse steps, in full view of the city that had tried to tear them apart. Kissed her like she was air and water and everything he needed to survive. When they finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "I'm going to mess this up," he whispered. "I'm going to have bad days where I can't look at Oliver without seeing Helen. Days where my guilt eats me alive. Days where I push you away because I'm terrified of losing you the way I lost her." "I know." Lily's voice was steady. "And I'm going to have days where I'm scared I'm not enough. Where I wonder if you'll ever really let me in. Where I question if I made the right choice. We're going to fight and fail and fumble our way through this. Sounds terrible. Sounds like a family." She grinned. "A real, messy, imperfect family." Lucas pulled out his phone, dialing with shaking hands. "Oliver? Buddy, it's Daddy. We're coming to get you." The joy in Oliver's voice carried through the speaker, bright and uncontained. "Lilyflower too?" "Lilyflower too," Lucas confirmed, meeting her eyes. "Forever." 6 months later, Judge Chen would stand in her chambers and grant permanent custody to Lucas and Lily Stone, noting in her report that she'd rarely seen a family more devoted to each other, despite their unconventional beginning. 12 months later, Lily would discover she was pregnant, and Lucas would cry in her arms, finally allowing himself to believe in second chances. 3 years later, Oliver would stand as best man at his Uncle Marcus's wedding, holding his baby sister's hand, whispering that if Uncle Marcus needed help finding a lilyflower of his own, Oliver knew where to look. But on that courthouse step, in the weak sunshine after the storm, Lucas and Lily only knew this: they had chosen each other. Not because it was easy or logical or financially sound, but because love, real love, was never about the money or the timing or the perfect circumstances. It was about two broken people deciding that together, they could be whole. It was about a little boy who needed a family. It was about sacrifice and second chances, and the courage to hope when hope seemed impossible. Lucas pulled Lily close as they walked toward the car, toward Oliver, toward their future. "Thank you," he whispered against her hair. "For what?" "For seeing past the money, past the guilt, past every reason to walk away." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "For choosing us. You're worth choosing," Lily said simply. "All of you. The good, the bad, the broken parts. You're worth everything." Above them, the city stretched endlessly, full of dreamers and survivors and people just trying to find their way home. Lucas and Lily had finally found theirs. In each other. in Oliver. In the imperfect, beautiful, hard-won family they'd built from ashes and second chances. The future was uncertain. The healing would take time. The scars would always remain, but they would face it together, 3 broken pieces forming something stronger than any of them had been alone. A family forged not by blood or law or money, but by choice, the only kind of family that truly matters. The end.